All right, let's just jump right in. We pour so much energy, so much time into our kids' education, right? Schools give them subjects, exams check their memory, and a degree, well, that certifies what they know. But here's the catch. Life doesn't hand you a report card. It asks a totally different set of questions.
And that is where the real problem is. It's this huge gap between being a great student and actually being ready for the real world. For us as parents, this is the challenge we have to tackle.
So let's ask the questions that really truly matter. When life just decides to throw a curveball out of nowhere, can your kid handle that uncertainty without completely freaking out?
And what about when you're not around to be their safety net? Can they actually look at their options and make a solid decision all by themselves?
And maybe this is the biggest one of all. When things go wrong, and you know they will, do they have that grit, that resilience to pick themselves up and go again?
You know, all of this leads to a pretty uncomfortable truth, doesn't it? Success in life, it's just not about being the smartest person in the room. The real thing holding most kids back isn't their IQ. It's a massive gap in basic, practical life skills.
Okay, so this is where it gets really fascinating. We see this all the time, this success illusion. We've got kids who are absolute rock stars in school, they're acing exams, getting into incredible universities overseas, and yet these same brilliant young adults are just struggling. They can't manage their money, they get totally lost in workplace politics, they freeze up when they have to make a tough call, and forget about managing their emotions. You see, schools don't teach this stuff because you can't put it on a test, and that means, well, it's on us.
To really see what this looks like, let's talk about a real person. This is Kunal's story, and on paper, believe me, he was the poster child for success.
So what went wrong with Kunal? I mean, here's a guy who was a top student at a top university. But within a year of being on his own, he was totally overwhelmed. He had no clue how to budget his money, he would avoid any kind of conflict at work, and he was calling his parents for every tiny decision. See, his education prepared him for the global stage, but it didn't prepare him for his own life. His story is it's a huge wake-up call, a reminder of the gap we've got to close for our own kids.
Now, Kunal's story isn't some one-off thing. It's really a symptom of a much bigger issue in our education systems. So to get a handle on this, let's zoom out and look at two of the big ones, the CBSE, which is the national curriculum in India, and the IB, the International Baccalaureate. They're really different in their approach, but you'll see that both can leave our kids with some very similar and very critical gaps in life skills.
And this slide just lays it out so clearly. It's all about trade-offs. You take the CBSE path and you get incredible discipline, but the gap? Autonomy. On the flip side, the IB path builds amazing confidence, but sometimes that comes at the cost of endurance, of real grit. See? Neither one gives you the whole package. Okay, so let's dig into that CBSE gap for a second. The system is fantastic at teaching kids how to follow rules and respect structure. There's no doubt about it. But the downside is they get really good at following a pre-made system, not so good at navigating the messiness of real life. It creates this kind of dependency where they're always waiting for someone to tell them what to do instead of just taking the lead.
All right, now let's look at the IB gap. IB kids are often incredible speakers, right? Super confident presenters. But here's something we have to remember. Confidence isn't the same thing as competence. They might be able to give you a brilliant presentation about a problem, but they can really struggle with the boring, repetitive, day in, day out work it takes to actually solve that problem.
So, what are we as parents supposed to do about all this? Honestly, this is the most important takeaway. If your child is in the CBSE system, you have to deliberately create space for them to fail in a safe way. Give them real responsibilities. And, this is the hard part, you have to stop swooping in to rescue them. For an IB kid, the focus is a bit different. You've got to insist on accountability, teach them the actual nuts and bolts of how money works, and make routine a normal, valued part of life.
And that brings us to the real solution here. A kind of universal life curriculum that every single one of us should be teaching at home no matter what school our kids go to. Think of these as the absolute non-negotiables for raising a capable, independent adult.
Just take a second and look at this list. This is it. This is the core of what we're talking about. I mean, you've got the practical stuff like financial literacy and managing your time, but you've also got the heavy hitters, the emotional skills, like learning to manage your own feelings and bouncing back after a setback. And notice asking for help is on here. Teaching our kids that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness, that's huge. And things like self-advocacy, handling conflict,
Come on, these are the skills that are really going to serve them for the rest of their lives, long after the exams are over.
So as we start to wrap this up, let's just be really clear about something. That report card, it's temporary. But the life skills you teach them, those are forever. Your child's real education starts exactly where the school's curriculum ends.
I absolutely love this quote. It says it all, doesn't it? Degrees open doors. Life skills decide what happens inside. A degree might get your foot in the door, for sure, but it's the life skills that determine if you're going to succeed, if you're going to thrive once you're in that room.
At the end of the day, our job as parents isn't just about getting our kids through school. It's about preparing them for life after school, and that is the most valuable education we could ever possibly give them.
So I'm just going to leave you with this one final thought. The world is complicated, it's moving fast, and it is not going to slow down for your child. So the only question left to ask is, will they be ready?